Hey kids, it's Pastor Nora, and today we're going to teach you our brand new Bible verse that we learned today from the Gospel lesson from Matthew 5, which says this: "For I tell you, unless your righteousness exceeds that of the Scribes and Pharisees, you'll never enter the kingdom of heaven." Now, at first glance, this may not sound like a happy, joyful Bible verse, and in a sense, it's not one of those happy, joyful Bible verses, because here Jesus is saying that you'll never enter heaven unless you have what you need in order to enter heaven. And Jesus talks about righteousness, and righteousness is how you are before God, how you stand before God. And part of righteousness means to be right with God. That's what righteousness is. And on our own, we don't have what we need in order to be right with God. We just have the righteousness of the Scribes and Pharisees, who were two groups of people back in Jesus' day who thought that they could do what they needed to do in order to make themselves right with God. But here Jesus is saying that you need much more than this righteousness that these Scribes and Pharisees have. But here's the good news. This righteousness that you need is one that Jesus gives to you. And Nora, how does Jesus give you this righteousness?
In baptism.
Yeah, in baptism. Very good. Because in baptism, you are made what you need to be. You are made into a holy child of God whose sins are forgiven because Jesus died for your sins and made you his very own in holy baptism. And that's the righteousness that Jesus gives to you. Because what Jesus has done for you on the cross is make you right with his Father, so that nothing will ever separate you away from him. And that's why this Bible verse is a great Bible verse that we should all remember and learn. Because every day we're tempted to think, oh, if I were only a better person, maybe this would happen or that would happen. But that's not the case. Because the righteousness you need is something that's always given to you by Jesus, and he gives it to you in your baptism. So we don't need to think that if we were better people, God would love us more, because that's not true. He can't love you more than he already does, because you are his own precious child in holy baptism. And that's what we see in our gospel lesson. And that's why we learn this Bible verse as a reminder that Jesus is the one who gives you everything you need. So this one is a little bit longer, so we are going to divide this up into a few different parts. And for this, we're going to start with the first part. For I tell you, unless your righteousness exceeds that. And we'll end with that, okay? For the first part. So we're going to do our pointer finger, for I tell you. Then when we say righteousness, just go like this. And if you want to know why, I think it's just, I don't know. I could not think of a...
Use a book or a cat to use those.
Noah was saying that you can also use a book or a cat if you wanted to use it as righteousness. I don't know of a good sign for righteousness, so I guess there are other good ones, but I figure we'll just go like that. Or you can use your cat or a book. All right, so let's do it.
Yeah, I do it too like cat.
Okay, we'll say it 3 times. For I tell you, unless your righteousness exceeds that. All right, for I tell you, unless your righteousness exceeds that. For I tell you, unless your righteousness exceeds that. Okay, and the last part is, of the Scribes and Pharisees. Of the Scribes and Pharisees. Of the Scribes and Pharisees. And here's the real last part. You'll never enter the kingdom of heaven. You'll never enter the kingdom of heaven. You'll never enter the kingdom of heaven. All right, so we'll put all those, we'll put all those parts together and we'll say it 3 times, all right? For I tell you, unless your righteousness exceeds that of the Scribes and Pharisees, you'll never enter the kingdom of heaven. For I tell you, unless your righteousness exceeds that of the Scribes and Pharisees, you'll never enter the kingdom of heaven. One last time. For I tell you, unless your righteousness exceeds that of the Scribes and Pharisees, you'll never enter the kingdom of heaven. All right, well, that's this week's Bible verse. Tune in next week for next week's Bible verse. Until then, go in peace and serve the Lord. Thanks be to God. Good girl.